wonder what you think of this. Should you be allowed to donate your eggs or sperm to another family member to help them have a baby? Well, it's one of the options the fertility watchdog, the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, wants your opinion on in a public consultation which starts today. Laura Vitchins is from the National Gamete Donation Trust. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
And Josephine Quintavalli, Director of the campaign group Comment on Reproductive Ethics and Comment.
Hi.
She will, as she always does. Hello, Josephine.
Hi.
Laura, this could complicate family relationships somewhat. I'm not your real mother. Your granny is. I'm not your mum, but your sister is your. I am your mum, but your sister is your biological mother. I mean, the more you think about it, the more complicated it gets.
It is very complicated, and that's one of the reasons why they asked the public how squeamish are we. But ultimately, we have to look at people who, for whatever reason, can't have their children and do feel more comfortable with having eggs or sperm or gametes from somebody within their own family, simply because of the shared genetic background. The other thing
Why
is...
Why not adoption?
If it were very easy, that's probably something people would consider as well. But reality is that adoption in the UK is not as straightforward as it looks. And people, I think they're right. But the urge and the drive to have a child that is at least genetically related to at least one of the partners is so strong, and we need to recognise that.
Josephine, what problems do you foresee?
Well, I'm reminded of an old music hall song which is called I'm My Own Grandpa, because since you asked me to come on this program, I've been thinking about all the complexities of these kind of relationships.
You have to do it in a diagram, really, don't you?
You do, and I think the public probably doesn't. Well, you won't have time quickly to sort of think it through, but I did do the thinking through. So let's take the situation of the mother who donates eggs to her daughter. Right. In the normal course of events, the offspring of your daughter are your grandchildren. In this case, the child that would be born from the eggs donated by the grandmother would be a half-sibling to the mother who carried it. The grandmother would remain the grandmother because, but she would also be the mother. She would be looked at as a social grandmother, but a biological mother, and so on and so forth. And you can do the same thing with donations of sperm as well. It does absolutely deconstruct our whole structures of social parenting.
But it's not
and
something
I
people
think you need
do
to look
on a
at the
whim.
child's... Sorry?
It's not something people do in a whim. Well, let's use my own mother's eggs for my daughter. I mean, these are people in a recent case whereby a child was born with a genetic defect which would stop her from having children herself, to her mother, who's still very young, 25 I believe, just to be on the safe side, to give her daughter that option later in life. She may in the end decide not to have children at all, or adopt, or ask her sister, because there are siblings, to donate eggs.
At what point should she tell...
But can I say...
Okay, I think this is an important point, Josie. 1 second, I'm so sorry, but I feel it's important because it's an area which does fascinate me. At what point should the mother tell the child that her grandmother is her biological mother?
Parenting is what you make of it. I mean, I've been a donor, and I don't feel the mother of the child that I've resulting out of my donating eggs. And one has to assume that all parties involved go through a very stringent consultation and counselling process, so we'll realise that, yes, whilst there is genetic material there, it doesn't make them the mother.
But does the child have a right to know?
Yes.
Because surely the identity rights of the child are at the centre of this. Josephine, sorry,
that's covered.
Okay, that's covered. Sorry, Josephine, what were you going to say?
Well, what I was going to say is that in the normal course of events, the mother-in-law does not create a child with her son-in-law. And you have to look at this too. If eggs have come from somewhere else and sperm has come from somewhere else, there's not going to be the same complexities and the same, I think, discomfort for any child who's born from these procedures. So, it's your mother who... let's just take it from the perspective of the woman who wants her mother's eggs. Then you're going to say, I want my husband to fertilise my mother's eggs. And also, we've got to bear in mind that this poor unfortunate male doesn't exist yet. He's going to come along later, and he's going to be told, when the couple decide to get married, etc., by the way, would you mind fertilising my mother's eggs? I mean, we've got to be as crude as this and really play it and, explain it to people. This is what we're talking about. we can't sort of get all airy-fairy about, and then a child's born and that's that. And I've met many children, well, actually grown-up children who've come from adopted parenting, etc., who have problems and concerns and they want to know. We're obsessed with genetics at the moment. And they talk also about a concept which they describe as genetic bewilderment. You know, who on earth am I? Am I my mother's half-sister? Am I a grandchild? I've got a biological mother who's my social grand...
That addresses the identity rights of the child. So Laura, there's a case of Penny Jarvis in the news this week. She wants to freeze her eggs so that her young daughter, who will not be able to have a child without egg donation, can have the option of using her mother's eggs in the future. I mean, do you think that should be allowed?
Yeah, I do. Again, we have to keep in mind that it's not something people do because they want to do it. It's because there's this child with this genetic disorder, and the mother gives her the option that later on in life she may be able to use her eggs.
But how will the child who results from that feel about it? Have you thought that through?
It's difficult to predict, of course, and that's why one of the reasons why they don't do that much in this country just yet, although the technology is there, is because it does take a lot of counselling, and we have to be mindful, but ultimately it is the welfare of the child. And of course it will be difficult to say, well, what you think is your grandmother is actually technically is biologically your mother, and we can't ignore that. But we have to assume that the patients or the parents are as concerned about the welfare of their child as the public at large.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
It's 7:29.